Hey everybody, how are you doing? Welcome to Art Club. So do you have your pack nearby? Have that nearby. You'll need a pair of scissors today. You're going to need a Pritt stick. Some things to draw and color with usually come in handy. So if you have those things nearby, great. And before we get started, I just thought that we'd look at one quick picture just to give you an idea, maybe a clue to what this class is about. And you might have even seen the pictures on the envelope. I wonder what you think about these. Or can you tell maybe where this drawing is from? When we did this in the class, some people were pretty quick to guess it was somewhere in Asia, like China or Taiwan or Japan. Did you guess Japan? Well, this picture comes from Japan. So a little bit of a clue as to what we might be doing. So before we begin anyway, get yourself something to draw with, and even if you use the back of the envelope or find a scrap of paper, I'm going to describe to you a creature and you guys can try and draw it and we'll see what you come up with. So this creature has kind of like a bird face. It has big staring eyes, really big. It has some feathers on its head. Its body, it's kind of like a human, but it's really wrinkly. And instead of hands like we have, it has got crab claws or like lobster claws. It's more like this. It's got 2 legs and 2 arms. Okay. It's also wearing a pair of red shorts. And its skin is kind of gray. Okay, so I'll try that. I'll read that again. So this creature, it has a bird-like face, big staring eyes, feathers on its head, kind of a human body, but really wrinkly. It's gray in color. And it has 2 arms and 2 legs, but its hands are like crab claws or lobster claws. And it's wearing a pair of red shorts. So if you want, you could pause the video and see if you can draw that. You can always go back and listen to the description again and see what you come up with. And then I'm going to show you what I was describing and we'll talk about it a bit and a few other ideas. Okay, so here is the creature. And it's like the drawing you were looking before. It was drawn in Japan. So how does it compare to yours? So remember we were saying it kind of has like crab claws or lobster claws. Well, have a look at this one. Can you see what it's holding? So does it look a little bit like hair? Someone thought it looked like a little bit like a tail, but it is hair. And so this creature is interesting. What it does is it sneaks up behind you and it cuts off your hair. And you might ask why. That is a good question. And there's no reason other than this creature, as you can see, it looks super happy. It just loves doing it. It just loves tricking people. And all of these monsters we're looking at and things we're talking about today, like this picture we looked at at the very beginning, these are these creatures called yokai that come from Japan. And the reason I thought we'd look at them today is because when I started reading about them, I was amazed because they sound really, really, really like our fairies. Sometimes they're a bit animal, sometimes they're kind of more human looking, sometimes even more crazy than that. And some of them are kind of bad and evil, and some of them are very good, but then a lot of them are just kind of mischievous and like to play tricks and games. So just like this one here, who likes to cut your hair, the kami kiri. So we have a look at some more. So here's an example of how these drawings are shown. Do you remember when we were making our long drawings of the fairies going on parade? Well, these long scrolls are similar because as well as like our fairies, these strange creatures, these kind of monsters or ghosts or whatever you might like to call them, even fairies, there's a night where they go parading, just like ours. And you can see here, do they look like they're having a good time? Doesn't it? Do they look friendly? Or maybe not so friendly? Have a look. They're absolutely curious looking, aren't they? Very strange altogether. And the name yokai in part means these words. It means, if you were to translate it, bewitching, attractive, and disaster. So these kind of fairy creatures from Japan are a bewitching, attractive disaster. It's a great name, isn't it? So attractive, I suppose, means that you can't help but stare at them. Maybe because they're just so funny looking, or maybe because they're so unusual. Bewitching, they're kind of magic. And disaster, well, that's because they like to play tricks and games on us humans. So we'll have a look at a few, and just to get a little bit inspired, as we always do each week. So have a look at these ones. I think some of my favorite ones are these kind of blob creatures. This one on the left here that kind of has a face but kind of doesn't have a face. Real wrinkly blob. This one is an interesting one. It's really harmless. Apparently they don't do anything mischievous or mean to us at all. And if you were to see them, you might see them in groups. So if you were looking out across a field and you could see sometimes groups of cows and things like that, well, maybe instead of cows, you might see a group of these kind of bumbling through a field. And the only thing about them that there is that they're really, really, really stinky. I don't know what they smell like, but apparently they smell really bad. So all that would happen would be if you came across them, you would get a big fright because they look kind of strange and they smell terrible. But that's not so bad, is it? They're not too evil. They're just very strange creatures. And this one's cool as well. This one is a depiction of this creature that can turn invisible and grow really, really big into kind of a big wall, so that if you were trying to get somewhere, it could stand in your way and make it really hard for you to get there. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, like, imagine if you're rushing somewhere, like you're rushing to school or you're rushing to your friend's house, or you're trying to get somewhere fast. And next thing you know, you just bang into this invisible wall and you can't seem to get around it. You can't seem to get over it. It's just huge. And you just have to wait until it decides to walk away. So really inconvenient, isn't it? Very inconvenient, but not too bad. And now, these are cool, aren't they? So look at this lady. She has her head floating around her body, and so she doesn't lose it, she has it attached on by this kind of piece of string. So if for any reason that string comes unattached, she might float off and lose her body, and it's really annoying for her, as you can imagine. And that's really the main thing about her. And this one here, it kind of looks like a dog, doesn't it? Like, sort of, because it's a dog spirit. And the dog spirits are pretty cool because they kind of get into things. So if you were holding your pencil, the dog spirit jumped into your pencil will stop working. And that's all they do. They just make things to stop working. Or if you were eating your dinner and you had your fork, it jumped into your fork won't work anymore. And you have to think about, well, what would that mean? Is your fork going to go wild all around the place? Or is it going to stick to the table and you won't be able to pick it up? How would it break a fork? Maybe it just breaks it all into pieces. So that is the dog spirits. Let's take a look at some other ones. Here's some interesting ones. Sometimes these creatures aren't really like animals at all, but they're more like things. So this is like a big bowl creature. And this one's like a sweeping brush creature. So they're really cool, aren't they? And does this all remind you of the fairies when we were talking about them? How they can be kind of part human, part animal. They can kind of jump into different forms. They can shapeshift. These are really similar. This is one of my favorite ones, the one under the blanket. Very mysterious, very curious. You wonder, like, what does it look like? We'll never know. And now, are you ready for the top of the best of all the creatures? Here's one. Look at that one. This one's really cool. I wonder if by looking at it, you can figure out anything about it or guess what kind of power or what kind of thing it might do. So what they say is that this one's like a stomach that walks around because it's just hungry all the time. So all it does is it follows you around saying, you got any snacks? Got any snacks? I'm hungry. You got any snacks? And imagine you're trying to go to sleep and it's like, hey, you got any snacks? You got any snacks? I'm hungry. You got any snacks? And it just does that all the time. And when you feed it, it'll stop doing that for a second while it's eating. And as soon as it swallows, it goes, you got any snacks? You got any snacks? I'm hungry. I'm hungry. And it just is so annoying. Can you imagine? Do you ever have days like that where you just feel really hungry? This is like this creature all the time. And here's another few. I love these ones. They're big tongue sticking out. And you can see this one running. This one's name translates as busy. So knowing that its name's busy and it's running around, I wonder what kind of creature do you think it is, or what kind of power it might have over you? So yes, this is a very busy creature. It runs around all the time. And if you were to come across it, it could put a little kind of power on you that makes you feel busy all the time. So you can't sit and relax. It might be really hard to sleep. You just feel all the time that you need to be busy, 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 busy. We talked about this in the group. I think some of us decided that this was one of the worst ones to find yourself kind of in the power of, to feel like you can't relax at all. It would make it hard to even do this class, I think, because you'd kind of feel like you have to get up and do things all the time. And then the last two I'll show you are these ones here. So one of them has 2 heads, so 2 brains, and one has an eye on the back of its head, which is pretty crazy. And the thing about these ones apparently is that because one has 2 brains and one has the eye on the back of their head, they know everything, they can see everything, and you cannot lie to them. They know all your secrets. So if you were to tell them, oh, I can't think of one, let's say, you were to say, oh, I already did this art workshop, and you hadn't done it yet. They go, no, you haven't. You can't lie to me. I know. Or if you were to say, I did my homework, they go, no, you haven't. You can't lie to me. I know everything. So imagine that in your life. You can never, ever, ever not tell the truth because they can see right through you. So, oh, actually, before we finish, I'll have a little look at these ones too. Sometimes they're good. This one in the middle is kind of a good one. It has good powers and it's very specific. If you had a stomach ache, you'd love to meet this one because this one can cure stomach aches. And that's it. Cure stomach aches. Very specific power. This guy over here is one of my favorites. Not such a good one. He's very small, but he's also very hungry. And his hunger is so bad that he'll try to eat anything. So if you saw him running around, he might try to eat your shoe. He might try to eat your pet. He might try to eat a pillow. But he also might try to eat you. But because he's quite small, I think you probably have a good chance of kicking him away. But imagine that now. He's running around just trying to eat everything. So hungry, he can't help himself. He's not really bad because he doesn't mean to do it. He's just like so hungry. He's desperate to eat something. So now that we've had a look at those, I think that we should open our art packs and see what's inside and see what materials we have to work with. In your pack, you're going to find 3 different sheets like these, and you'll kind of notice that they kind of seem to come in like a light, a medium, and a dark, and they have these textures on them, these kind of patterns and textures. And you'll see that on the back, they have some shapes. Very curious. What's that about? So let's put that to the side for a second. You'll also find you're going to have 2 sheets of green paper, or green card. You're going to have some pink paper and some red paper. So the colors and everything that you're looking at now, you might kind of see why I picked them. If we look at the pictures, you can see that a lot of them are this kind of colors like greens and reds and pinks, and then inky washes of grays and blacks. So I wanted to kind of bring in all those colors so that the work we make today will feel really like these pictures that we've seen today. So I was thinking we could make our very own of these Japanese kind of fairy ghost monster creatures. So there's one of mine there I made, and then here's another one here I made there. You can see it's made of kind of different shapes from the different pieces of paper. And we'll see how I did it. Okay, so to start, the green paper is going to be your background. So you could either decide to stick the sheets together long like that, the way you've done before to make a scroll, or you might decide, like some people did, to make a book. So you could decide to keep them like this, so you have all these pages, or like what I did, which is that I just cut down where there's a fold. So out of 2 sheets, I was able to make 4 sheets that were this size. And then you can see I was doing 1 monster on each sheet. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut the shapes out of these gray pieces of paper that you can see on the back, and keep all the rest of the scraps because you're going to use them too. And when you have all the shapes cut out, you'll end up with all these shapes like this. It's a triangle and a hexagon and kind of a heart. And you'll see that these shapes have got a white side and a grey side, so you can use either side. And if you start playing with them on your green paper, you'll see that you start to kind of form ideas of monsters, maybe heads or bodies or feet or claws, or maybe they're a teapot. They could be anything really. So you can have a look at these and see, I did a mixture of cutting my own shapes out of the grey. Then I used like a circle shape there that was on the sheet. And this one you can see I used like a cloud shape and an egg shape. And then I'm adding details with the red and the pink. You see there? So really this is a really cutting and sticking kind of workshop. And to get us started on the very first monster, if you get your green paper ready, whatever way you want it, cut your shapes, maybe pause the video, get everything together, get your glue stick nearby and a scissors. And then I'm going to describe one of these monsters. And it's quite a short description. It's going to help you to get your first one done before you move on and start creating your own monsters. And I'll put up the picture at the end as well that shows all the different monsters you were looking at to kind of help get ideas going and maybe stories and names and things like that for your monster. So pause the video, get everything ready, and I'll come back to you with a very short description of a monster. Okay, are you ready? So this monster is just called Redfoot, and its name is pretty much the main thing about it. This monster has 2 big red feet. That's the only description we know about what it looks like. 2 big red feet. The rest of it you're going to have to invent because we're not really sure, but I can tell you a bit about it. So apparently what this Redfoot monster does is, as you're walking by, it'll leap out, grab onto your legs or onto your ankles, and it's heavy, and it'll make your steps really hard and really slow and really slow you down. So if you're rushing somewhere, this will be terrible, but you end up walking kind of in slow motion. So if you think about it, this monster has 2 big red feet, but it also is heavy, and it also has something that it grabs onto you with. So does it have hands? Does it have paws? Or is it like snake arms that wrap around you? Or maybe it has really sticky like hands or sticky bits on it that it just kind of sticks onto you like a bit of glue or sellotape. So if you want, you can go back on the description and have a think, have a look at your shapes and see, can you make your first monster based on Redfoot? And then once you've done Redfoot, you've got 3 more pieces of paper. You have your green paper that you're working on, and you can invent your own. So I'm going to put up the picture again as well at the end now that has all of the monsters, so that you can kind of every now and again you might want to glance at it, might give you an idea, or if you get a bit stuck. But start with Redfoot, see how you get on, see what you can find out about Redfoot by making its picture. And as always, it's really good to share photos if you can, or your stories, and tell me how you got on. The class loved this one. You'll find it's like working with lots of shapes and things like that. It can really help the ideas start to flow and start to come. And if anything, you'll want to come up with maybe 20 monsters because it's really good fun. So I'll see you guys soon. Enjoy making your monsters, and yeah, catch you next time.